with me one moment. I'm just going to get everything sorted out for us. Let's start by having some music. Oh, that was too loud. Oh, sorry. Hi, Branson. Yeah, I'm doing all right. Hello, Chad. Atifa. Sorry if I just blasted anyone's ears off. Hello, Basti. Yeah, so, I was going to do a video, okay? And then I watched the trailer and was like, there's basically nothing in this. And then watched Evo's video where Evo spoke about everything they got shown because they had everything for the DLC revealed to them by Frontier. And I'm like, if I do a video, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to have to constantly be saying, in Evo's video, she said. In Evo's video, she said. So I thought, fuck it, I'll just do a stream and we can go through everything together and we can be a bit more talkative and a bit more free. I've also edited 2 other videos for the channel today, so I'm kind of edited out. And if I was to make a video about this, it would have been 3 or 4 hours before I could put it on YouTube properly. Probably would have taken 3 hours to do, by which time everyone's seen Evo and lessons or whatever, so I just thought we'd do it as a stream and chat. At the side, this is the order we're going to talk about this. Just to make it easier for me to respond to you guys in the comments, please try to keep any conversation or thoughts you have in respect to those bits while we're there. So, you know, save any conversation about animals in it till we get to talk about the animals. Save your thoughts about the variants till we get to that bit, etc., etc. That would just help me respond to you guys in the comments. Hello, Kyrie. So, yes, let's start with my first point. I'm going to need to bring up. There's lots of things to bring up in here, so also bear with me briefly. Let's get how is everyone's day going? Before we get started, how is everyone, everyone having a good day? Before we get to talking about this, no worries, Tyrannical Lizard. I assume that some people might be busy. I am going to do another video about this later on in the month, later on in the week, about what I'm most looking forward to. So if you don't catch all of this, Basti, good until now. Oh dear. Well, I hope I don't make anyone's day worse. That's for sure. So let's start with the first aspect of this, which I think is worth talking about. Obviously, this DLC, for me at least, has a problem, and that is it's connected to what I think is one of the worst movies I have ever seen. What I think is the worst movie of the franchise, and a movie that I think actively damages the franchise. So, already, this DLC is in an awkward position, at least for me, and I can imagine anyone else who is not a particular fan of Rebirth, this DLC is already in an awkward starting place. It's going to have to be very good. It's going to have to earn any purchase made if you don't like Rebirth. And obviously, hello Wallace, and obviously the fact that it is so heavily related to Rebirth as a film means there's lots of problems that this DLC is going to end up having as a side effect of it being about Rebirth, in much the same way that Dominion, the 2 Dominion DLCs for the last game, they had the problem of they were based on what was at that point the worst movie in the franchise, and then Rebirth happened. So, I think that frames the DLC quite nicely. So, from here, basically, I'm going to be judging this based on what worth do I think this DLC provides to somebody who does not like Rebirth. That's going to be a very important question for me about this DLC. So that's going to be one of the ongoing things that I'm going to be thinking about here. So let's start with, I'm going to move that to the side. Let's start by going through the trailer, because the trailer is, you know, the trailer isn't great, but you know, we'll start with the trailer, because that's what everyone has access to, and the website. So let's do capture. Sorry, I'm just trying to capture. There we go. Now, obviously, I'm not going to play it because then I'll get copyright striked. I'm just going to go through it step by step, as it were. So, the first thing we see is obviously the Aqualops. I'll talk more about my feelings about the Aqualops in the animal section. Hello, good Modra. We'll talk about all of that in a little bit. Today, at the moment, we're just talking about the trailer. We'll talk about the animals and stuff in a second. Okay. Right. So, yes, Aqualops we'll talk more about in the animal section. Then we get a nice shot of their recreation of the facility we see in the movie. Oh, it is just black. Why is it just black? Capture method. There we go. Sorry. That should have fixed it. God Modra, we're not going to shit on it, but we are going to talk about it reasonably. Okay. Anyway, where were we? Lorenzo and I have no idea what that is. Also, don't be in caps. Anyway, we have this recreation of the lagoon area we see in the movie. It's not a perfect recreation. Also, this is not a lagoon. This is placeable deep water that they've used here to create this. You can see that in one of the screen caps. You can see the edge of the terrain at the edges of this water. So this is not a lagoon. This is placeable deep water. It's a reasonable recreation of that facility. It's not 100%, but it's reasonable. I think it does the job. We move on to the Titanosaur, which again I'll talk more about in the animal section. I am surprised by something about this particular animal, which again I'll talk about in the animal section, but you know, here's the Titanosaur. It is exactly the same as the Titanosaur in the movie. Reveals the new temple building set, which again we'll talk more about in the building set section with the Quets. But I am very glad that we have like a building set based on Mayan temple and such. That's going to be interesting. This shot of the Spinosaurus. Obviously, the Spinosaurus was one of the things I was actually really looking forward to having. We'll talk about the Spinosaurus in the animal section. I really like, though, one thing I would have to say, I like how this looks. I like the big mountains. I like the mist, you know, the low-hanging mist. I think it looks particularly good as a map. Like, one thing I would say about the existing campaign maps, most of them are kind of a little boring in terms of their backgrounds. This looks pretty nice, apart from this horrible fence they have running through here, which kind of takes the it just adds some ugliness. Although I think this does confirm it's going to be using the same tropical biome set, so we're going to have the same tropical trees, same tropical ground paints, but I think we all assumed that that was going to be the case anyway. Yeah, I do like how it looks. And then we have obviously the reveal of now this is obviously important. We have the reveal of the new aviary building, which we'll talk about in the gameplay mechanics section. But this does obviously confirm that the Mutadon is free flying, which is not what I thought was going to be the case. I am honestly surprised at that. Given how little we see it fly in the movie, I'm honestly surprised it's an aviary species. But we'll talk more about that later on. And we obviously have the reveal of the Distortus Rex, which we knew was obviously going to be there. And again, I'll talk about that in the animal section. And that's basically it. Like, for a trailer, they don't really give much away. They do talk about how they're integrating this into the story, which I'll get to in a second. But for a trailer, they really don't give very much away at all. The website, I would actually say if you want to know about the DLC, just read the website of What Evo's video. This trailer is kind of superfluous. So we'll get rid of this. And we will move on to talking about the campaign. So let's bring image back. We will start with talking about the campaign and what we know of it. So obviously I went on the website, did plenty of reading up, and this is also based on what Evo has said. Why has that not... Oh, something has gone. It doesn't want to open that particular type of file. That's weird. Technical issues, folks. Bear with me. There we go. So, from what the website and Evo and everyone... Hello, AESR and Luna. So, it's going to be its own separate campaign based prior to the events of the film. I think this is potentially the best way to implement the campaign as separate to the existing DIN campaign, because that was one of the problems we all had. We were all wondering, like, how is this the Rebirth film, which is retconning so much, going to actually integrate into the DIN campaign, which is, you know, completely a completely sort of separate viewpoint on what happens after the Dominion to what Rebirth shows. So doing a campaign set prior to those events is probably the best way of doing it. And it's going to have its own... I assume this is what the campaign map is going to look like. This is the picture that they had on the website. So I assume that this is going to be what we are going to be seeing as we go through the campaign. Now, according to the website, the campaign is going to be based on 3 different maps. So the first map is going to be the facility map, which is the one we saw in the trailer, and the basic sort of starting area. The second one, they say, is going to be the ancient valley, which they do show in the Titanosaurus picture, which they've clearly made to sort of represent Titanosaurus Valley as we see it in the film. Got a little Mayan pyramid there. Wide open space. So I assume that campaign is going to be mostly about the Titanosaurus, that part of the campaign. And then the last part of the campaign, or the other map, is going to be based on what they're calling the Riverside Lab, which they do show off in another screen cap from the website. Now, I believe this is what we see in the trailer with the Spinosaurus, because you can see this concrete dam from the other side in that Spinosaurus shot in the trailer. So I believe this is the Riverside Lab, and it's probably going to be where we get the Spinosaurus and we do everything that. I like the sound of the fact that the campaign is going to be flexible. The website says we'll be handling an island-wide power network and an island-wide cash flow. So it's going to be a lot closer to... I'm just going to turn the music down slightly because I think it might be a bit loud. So it's going to be a lot closer to... I kind of want to say Jurassic World Evolution 1, but it's not. It's going to be kind of closer to maybe the Return to Jurassic Park DLC for the first game. Yeah, or the Dominion Biosin expansion, as Kairu says. I think that is also good from a gameplay mechanical perspective. You know, sharing facilities island-wide. One of my criticisms of the DIN campaign is that every campaign area, every map, has its own separate cash flow and separate genetic labs. So you can't easily share stuff across. So I like the sound of this being more connected to one another, which I think is again the right way of doing it. Now, Evo did mention something interesting in her video. She mentioned that there are going to be 3 main characters for this particular campaign. One is going to be Lily Halford, which we already know from the DIN campaign. The other 2 are going to be brand new scientist characters. So, Baldera from the DIN campaign is not going to have anything to do with this, it seems. It also confirms that none of the characters from the film are going to have anything to do with this. So, I suppose that makes sense that none of the characters from the movie would be involved, but I don't know. It's an interesting sounding campaign, which could create a worthwhile narrative. They could create quite a worthwhile story here, if it's well written. And that's the big if it's well written. So the campaign might be worth playing through. might be. I mean, what do you guys? Let's take a before I move on to the animals. What do you guys think about how the campaign sounds? Let's give you guys a chance to type and chat. What do you guys think about how the campaign sounds? This separate campaign, integrated, 3 different map areas integrated together, and possibly some attempt at a prequel rebirth narrative. Like, what do you guys think? I'm gonna have a slurp of tea. Ezra, we will talk about the rebirth variants of the Rex and the rest when we get to the variant section. We are currently at the campaign section. So Chad says it sounds decent. Atifa, I was kind of shocked by how few assignments it has. It has 2 major and 15 minor. Yeah, so that was something Evo mentioned. That the whole area is like 2 big things you have to do, and 15 smaller things. I suppose it depends how sort of difficult those major assignments are to complete. Like, it depends how much there is for us to do. Berenza says it sounds reasonably decent. Ezra says it sounds interesting. Godmodra says it sounds very good. Tyrannical Lizard, I have to see it first. Yeah, this is all based on what we got off the website and off of what Evo has said. So take everything with a pinch of salt, is what I'm going to say. Will they have their own square maps? That's an interesting question, Wallace. Will it have it? Will there be a Isla St. Hubert square map? I hope so, because like I say, the background, the actual environment looks quite nice, and I wouldn't mind building something on an environment like that. So yeah, as AESR says, that's kind of my view. It sounds promising, but it's in the execution that's important, because as we know with so much the Frontier does, it's the execution of things, ideas, where they tend to fall over. Like, the idea sounds good on paper, and then when they execute it, it goes wrong. You can use this map as your new facility island for all DLC presentation. That's a good idea, actually, AESR. Or because I was thinking of just rebuilding my old original one. But maybe. Right. Let's move on to the bit that I think is going to take the longest. Let's go to the animals. And we're going to talk about the new animals. So we're not talking about the variants or the skins here. We're just talking about the animals. So let us start with Aqualops. This is the image that they have on the website. So it is coming as a family unit, according to the website and according to Evo. So we'll have male, female, and a baby, as you can see. I believe in this picture, the male is the one on the left, the female is the one on the right. That seems to make sense in terms of what they're showing on the skins. Evo did say that the male Aqualops has some very nice skins, and I mean, the one they're showing off here, the blue and the red on the frill, I think it's all right. I think it's okay. I agree, AESR, the texture on this looks pretty good. Reminds me of the Nothosaurus texture, actually, from the second game. But here comes the but. It is a tiny animal species. So the problem that the game has is it's really built for animals of a certain size and scale. Aqualops is so bloody small. It's not really... It has the same problem all the tiny animals have. Until they supply us with proper low decorative fencing, and until they supply us with path viewing or other ways of viewing animals that do not require enormous gantries and enormous viewing windows and huge viewing systems, until they provide us something that's more effective for viewing a small animal, this has all the problems of a small animal. And just from a personal perspective, we have Microceratus already, so this feels a bit superfluous to me. I think this one might have the edge on the Microceratus because of the skins. We'll have to have a look at the skins when we actually see it properly. But yeah, I think what might happen is there might be a divide. You're going to have the side of the community that's like the Microceratus fanboys, and the side that's going to be the Aqualops fanboys. There's going to be a divide in the middle. I think Aqualops might have the better skins, but we'll have to see when it comes. Yeah, Wallace. I'll talk about that when I get to the Titanosaurus. The worst part is it doesn't resemble an Aqualops. So obviously something. Rebirth animals are probably the most stylized. And that obviously is a problem that this DLC is going to share because of the film. Like, they can't include an animal and not have it look like the film. Like this, like I said at the beginning, this DLC has the problem. It's based on a terrible movie, and that's just going to have to be something that this DLC carries with it. But yeah, I think this is fine, but it's a tiny animal and it has all the problems of tiny animals. Let's move on to the big boy, Titanosaurs. Let's have a look. Actually, I quite like this. Okay, that one's not going to work. I quite like the shot they have on the website, but we'll actually bear with me one moment. Let me get the one that's on the website. Is it that every flipping picture of the internet saves as a .wemp file and not a proper JPEG anymore? It really bugs me. I actually think the picture that the other picture they have, which is this one, is actually a nicer image. Actually, I think it's a better image of the Titanosaurus. So, this is also coming as a family unit. So you'll have a male, a female, and a juvenile. We'll talk about that delta when we get to variants and skins, don't worry. What I think is really obvious is that these have been descaled for the game. It's really obvious that these Titanosaurs are smaller than how they are depicted in the movie, which is obvious because in the movie they are massively oversized. They're like the size of Godzilla in the movie. So I'm glad that these things are a more reasonable, logical size, because there was no way we were going to be able to have the film version at that scale in the park. The sails on the back and the neck, which I actually like. I like the sails. There's no evidence for them, but there's no evidence against them. And I think it does make the Titanosaurus slightly more unique than all the other sauropods we have in the game. Like, this is a problem that Titanosaurus was always going to have. We've got so many sauropods in the game. The sails do make it stand out, and they're animated according to Evo. They do move. They stand up and lay down. They stand up. Is that they expand and they retract? It's probably the better way of saying it, according to Evo. So I like the fact they're animated and they're not just going to be stationary frills. Yes, as people are going on about, the tail surprises me. That tail is so anachronistic to the fossils, for one, which really winds me up about the movie. But for two, they're so big that we are going to see so much clipping of those tails through everything. I think it's especially telling that the picture we actually have of them in their map is this one, where there's basically fuck all around them. There's nothing around them that tail could clip through at all. It's just empty land. The tail is going to be awful. It's going to clip through everything, because it can't have. I would imagine it doesn't have collision, so it's going to clip through the ground. It'll clip through fencing. It'll clip through galleries. It'll clip through rocks. There's going to be some very awful clipping of that tail. The tails will probably clip through each other. So yeah, it's going to be a bit immersion breaking. And it is what it is, again, because of the film. I do think the Titanosaurus, if I go back to that shot, I do think the Titanosaurus feels very Jurassic. I could see this in Jurassic Park 3, for example. I could have seen this in Jurassic Park 3, or replacing the Mementi in The Lost World. It feels very Jurassic. It's slightly stylized with the frills and that really ridiculous tail. But I think it does feel Jurassic. I don't think it's a very good representation of the animal. I think the tail is too long, and in the film it was terribly oversized. But I think it feels very Jurassic. Whether or not it becomes a feature in my parks, I don't know. I think the game has too many sauropods. And obviously this also has the problem of all sauropods that it doesn't fight back, etc., etc. So, right. Let's get on to the contentious ones, and I'm sure you guys are here just to hear me rant about these. The Mutadon. So, like all the other hybrids, and this is a hybrid, I don't care what anyone says, it is not a mutant, it is a hybrid. It literally says so in the film. It says it on its tank in the first shot of the film. It says hybrid. It's not a mutant. It's a pterosaur and raptor hybrid. It's not going to have a family unit, so it can't breed, which is the same as all the other hybrids in the game. The fact it's an aviary animal really does surprise me. I wonder how much, because obviously at the moment our pterosaurs, they basically mostly fly. They land, they walk a few steps, and then they go back to flying. So I wonder how much the Mutadons are going to fly and walk. That's something I am curious about. I hope it's a bit more 50-50 when compared to the pterosaurs, because I want these guys to walk around more as much as they fly. It also can only live in its unique aviary, the invisible aviary, which we'll talk about in the mechanics section. It can't live in any other aviary. They've claimed that they've given this an in-game reason that Evo talked about, called they all have a trait called confinement aggression, which means they'll break out in campaign. They'll break out of any other type of aviary, which I do wonder if therefore there is something about the Mutadon in the back end of the game, like the game's AI, that meant they couldn't put them in the traditional caged aviaries. It feels like that's been done because there's something that stops them working in those traditional aviaries. But as you guys have said, and as I have said many a time, this is a terrible animal. This is a discount dragon that even Daenerys Targaryen wouldn't give to looks. It is, in my opinion, the perfect example of everything that's wrong about the Jurassic franchise at this point in time. It's terrible, awful, it's shit. But this is a Rebirth DLC, it was going to be here. But these things will never, ever be in any of my parks. Ever. Never. The only time I will be using this is to probably play through the campaign. That's it. Then it will be essentially in the digital dustbin from there on. Moving on. Obviously, then the last one to talk about is the Distortus Rex. So it's going, again, no family unit. It's going to be scaled down. I say scaled down. The Distortus Rex changes size throughout the entire film it's in. One moment it's reasonably sized, one moment it's again the size of Godzilla. Its size for the game has been stabilized as about the same height as fencing, just a little bit bigger. It has a unique game mechanic in that it cannot be tranquilized, according to Evo, which is why the move dinosaurs with the flare ranger thing has been implemented in the free update. I do wonder then if that means we can't airlift them out of a hatchery. Evo didn't say anything about that bit. All she said was that you can't trank them. But they are tranked if you airlift them from a hatchery. So I do wonder if we'll be able to airlift them, or if we actually have to lead them from a hatchery to an exhibit. I also happen to think that the you cannot tranquilize this animal thing is going to be quite a tiresome gameplay mechanic. Especially if, as we can assume in the campaign, this thing is going to break out of its cage multiple times. I think it's going to be tiresome to have to basically do a Pied Piper of Hamlet thing with this, as constantly with the Jeep dragging it to its enclosure. Yeah, Kairu, sounds like a chore to manage if it breaks out. And again, this is another example of everything that's wrong with the Jurassic movie as a whole, as a franchise. Again, another discount movie monster that in the film was used even worse than how the Indominus Rex or Indoraptor had been used. This thing was in the beginning for a few moments to eat Snickers Guy, then disappeared for the whole film, and then showed up at the very end to eat Big Corpo Guy. And that's it. Like, its inclusion in the film was actually kind of a waste of time. And it is, I hold this down, it is just a Rancor. It's a Star Wars Rancor mixed with a little bit of Alien. That's it. So again, this thing won't be in any of my parks apart from the campaign. It will not be implemented in any park I build. I hate it. It's awful. Again. So, before we move on to the mechanics section, and let's get rid of that fucking thing. Let's go back to something that's nice. Let's go back to the Aqualops. What do you guys think about the animals? Obviously, we knew what the animals were going to be, or we assumed what the animals were going to be. So what do you guys think about their implementation? So we got Aqualops as a family unit, Titanosaur as a family unit, the two hybrids, Mutodon being an aviary species. What do you think? Hybrids aren't bad in general, just they're ugly. The mutant garbage thing damages public perception of dinosaurs. It does. I mean, you could argue that the Jurassic Park Dilophosaurus has also done that. Like, every Dilophosaurus now is presented in games like Ark as a tiny, poison-spitting, frilled lizard, even though that's not true. Kyrie, the only one I'll use consistently is Titanosaurus. Everything else I couldn't care less about. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to use Titanosaurus very much because, again, I think when it comes to sauropods, we have too many. And I think, for me, I still like the JP3 Brachy more than any of the others. I think my defining problem with most of the sauropods is that they have terrible skins. And the Titanosaur might actually have nice skins because it has quite a good pattern in the film. But Frontier has a habit of ruining the dinosaurs with the skins. So we'll see what skin Frontier has given the Titanosaurs in their own patterns and colors. The tail clipping is going to be concerning, Cairo, I agree. I think it's going to look so weird. As a hybrid war veteran, they can look cool as well, like real animals. Yeah, but the thing is, Godmodra, the franchise doesn't need discount kaiju monsters from a Godzilla film to be good. They should just focus on actual animals, because they were enough. I mean, that was the whole point of Jurassic World. In Jurassic World, they literally have a character say, the original park was legit. They didn't need an invented dinosaur. Real dinosaurs were enough. Like, they literally say the point. Even though I couldn't care less for new hybrids, I'm glad that we have a flying hybrid for hybrid parks. That's a good point, Casper. Like, one of the, I suppose, criticisms I've always had about the way that the Evolution games implemented hybrids was that, especially in Evolution 2, we had the aviaries and the lagoons, but we didn't really have an aviary or lagoon hybrid to take advantage of those new environments. So I suppose now with the Mutodon, we do have a flying hybrid for people that want to create hybrid parks. So I think that's a legitimate good point, Casper. I'm not a fan of the Indominus, but at least they tried to justify the behavior. Yeah, that's a good point. Can we have a Triassic DLC instead? I would much rather a Triassic DLC than probably a Rebirth one. But we'll go. We'll see how it goes. Hello, Nicholas. Right, let us move on to the bit that I think is actually. I'm actually more interested about this next bit, actually. Well, the next couple of bits. The mechanics. Let us start with the first one, and I'm actually going to use the picture that they have on the website for this. Again, this is a much better picture than what we see actually in the trailer. Sorry, I'm just having to grab it from the website again because reasons. So it is, where is it? This one. So this is the one they actually have on the website. And I think it's obviously much better than what we see in the trailer. It's an interesting premise. Obviously, Kaya Denick basically did something like this for Evolution 2. It's a very interesting premise. It can't be denied, though, that all they've done is taken a standard Jurassic World aviary and pulled the dome off. You still have that horribly ugly wall, and you still have to connect a hatchery and a aviary gallery to this. And they do look really bizarre like that. So it can't be denied that this is basically a very simple bodge job. I actually really like the force field effect, the like little blue force field effect. It reminds me of Star Trek's force fields quite a lot. Could we have that on like a fence? I would love a fence of just this force field effect, or just add it to the invisible fencing. Like, I would quite enjoy that for a bit more of a science fiction feel to enclosure boundaries. So yeah, I really like the little Star Trek sort of force field thing. Now, in this image, we have, I believe, 6 aviary sections. There are 3 on the one side, and then there's 3 more that are slightly offset. And this is housing, I believe, 2. I can only see 2 mutadons in the picture. So this gives you some sort of expectation of how much space you're going to have for your mutadons, I think. Something along the lines of probably between 4 and 6 aviary sections. If you were to make a JWE hybrid, what species would you choose? I have literally done a video, and I got someone to draw out the hybrids I would have made. God Modra. It is a video I did quite a while ago. But if you like, I can post it in the chat, or if Berenson, if you want to quickly go look back at my previous videos and see if you can find that hybrid video and post the link in chat. And then you can watch that God Modra. Anyway, as I was saying, so we know the mutadons can freely fly, but they're not going to be able to land on any of this terrain naturally. Obviously, the only way we're going to have them land on anything like this is to place those placeable perch points that they are giving us in the free update. I'm going to assume that the mutadons are not they wouldn't be able to fly and then like naturally land on this large clump of terrain and rock here. Can we build our own domes for it is also the other obvious question. I would imagine you probably can, as long as you build up high enough to sort of not interfere with the navigation of the animals inside it. Building your own domes, though, for this is going to be piece count heavy. I would almost say it's illogical to try to build a dome for this, because you are going to have such a high piece count to make a reasonable dome for these things. Just leave them empty, I think. Just for your own sake, peace of mind. We can use it for the existing pterosaurs as well, that they've said we can use it for the existing animals. That's going to be nice. Gives us another option for displaying those animals. But, of course, the other problem is we still have to use all the conventional games stuff. So, we aren't going to... We still have to attach a viewing gallery. Like, people won't see the animals flying around in this completely open aviary without you attaching a gallery to it. We still have to use the aviary hatchery, and we still have to attach it to it. We can't, you know, drop them helicopter style inside. You have to release them through the hatchery into the thing. I do think the game really badly needs to add path viewing. We really need path viewing added as a mechanic to this game. Especially now we're coming up with stuff like this. Like, it's so stupid to have something like this and still say, oh, well, the guests are going to be blind to the animals flying around unless they go into a viewing gallery. The mutadons are so bad, they have to have their own aviary. Obviously, the other problem with these aviaries is we can't change the color. Which, that would be such a really simple thing to implement, to allow us to change the color of some of these buildings. Same with the lagoons. Like that horrible concrete lagoon wall. If we could just change the color so we could make it blue, so it would just stand out less when it's under the water or whatever. Just really simple game mechanic elements like that just really, really help these structures. But, you know, obviously that's too much. The next mechanic to talk... Actually, before we move, let's go through, because there's only 3 to talk about. So what do you guys, before I move on, what do you guys think of the invisible aviary? Ignoring the fact that it's basically just for Mutadon in the campaign, like, as a broader structure, what do you guys think of the invisible aviary? Chad likes it. Kairu, it's alright. I mean, I certainly think that the outer wall just needed changing slightly. I just think it's a bit much. It's pretty neat, like the aerial deterrent system in JWD. Yeah, like, it is nice to actually finally have that implemented. Like, it was one of the things I remember people talking about was missing from the Biosyn DLC, so it's nice to actually have that in this game. Peak, I'll use it for my Flapter. From this day forth, they will no longer be called Mutadons. They will now be known as the Flaptors. New structures are always welcome additions. That is true, AESR. And this one actually has a legitimate gameplay alteration. It's just a shame that in implementation, like without guest path viewing, we are still limited to the mechanical limitations of the game with something like this, which is so annoying. In Sandbox, I imagine everyone is going to use these. I don't imagine people will use those domes anymore in Sandbox. Unless they want to like build like a greenhouse or something. I imagine pretty much in Sandbox, everyone will use these at all times. And like I say, I love the little shimmering blue Star Trek force field effect. Although, I do wonder then, I suppose that means the Mutadons will only be able to escape if it runs out of power. I don't suppose they're going to break if like a tornado hits them, because there's nothing physical to break. They would only. It would only be if the power failed that they would go offline. Don't know. That might be something to that we'll have to stress test when these things come out. Is do tornadoes and such actually physically damage them? Right. Let's move on to the next one. Which again, I had to take this particular picture from Evo's video because it was just easier than writing it all out again myself. So, we are going to have 8 new genetic modifications that we can apply to animal traits. You alright over there? No. Sorry about that. That was Dave. The Fletcher is from UG. What's UG? I don't... You mean undergrowth? That's the only UG thing I think it could be. Anyway, carrying on. So, we're going to get 7 new genetic traits. Evo stated that amicable means that any other... that the animal is going to be able to like every other animal. So basically makes it super social. And obviously these are only really relevant for challenge mode on campaign. Yeah, God Modra, you keep saying that. I don't know what UG is. What is UG? She also said that venomous will make the animal have a venomous bite for hunting, basically. But this does make me wonder. So, we can probably guess these. Hardy means that it's probably going to have better health than other animals. You know, that's your resist damage one. Bio-resistance means it's going to be damage resistance. No, not damage resistance. Disease resistance is going to be your bio-resistance one. Prolific, I assume, is going to be... I don't know, maybe a rating-related one, or maybe prolific animals would be more, you know, the alpha animals, more prone to being alpha in socialization. But this number 5 is the one that confused me. Poisonous. Poisonous and venomous are separate. So what is poisonous going to be? Does that mean the animal is going to make other animals sick if it gets eaten? Because that seems a little pointless, really. It'd be like, why would you make an animal poisonous? Maybe it means, actually, maybe it means that if the animal is attacked, the attacking animal gets poisoned and therefore stops attacking it. Maybe that's how it's going to work. It's like a preventing an animal from being hunted thing. That might be what it is. Domesticated, I assume it just makes it super docile, so less likely to riot and the rest of it. The 8th one that they didn't reveal to Evo, no idea what it could be. But I mean, what do we have here? We have like amicable and domesticated, I would say, and prolific, probably, I would say, are like sociability ones. Hardy and bioresistance are your sort of endurance ones. Poisonous and venomous are like your hunting ones. So maybe the 8th one is going to... I don't know, I'm trying to think of like what statistic about the dinosaurs we have in the game at the moment those don't affect. Maybe something about fertility, actually. That's the only thing that's not handled on that list is fertility. Maybe the 8th one is something to do with the animals' fertility or the babies or something like that. Does remind me of the Secrets of Doctor Who DLC, one of the better DLCs from the first game. I would argue that, or maybe an intelligence trait or something. Yeah, that's a good point. Superpowers, though, for animals, it is what it is. Now, the last one is actually the mechanic I am most excited about, weirdly. Again, having to use Evo's picture for this, because the website doesn't really have an image for it. So, we're going to have a new power mechanic, which is fixed power stations for geothermal energy. So, we're not going to be able to move them. And we're going to have distributors, which act basically like the transformer pylons we do in the game. And how it's going to work is that you connect these up with pipework, and the power is divided between them equally. So in Evo's example, the power station makes 64 energy. The piping to the two distributors distribute 32 each. That's actually quite an interesting mechanic, because it means that you're going to have to be careful not to bunch buildings all in one space. You're going to have to put your buildings around the distributors in a relatively even pattern, so you're not wasting power. Because like if you send 32 power one way and you're only using like 12, you're compromising other parts of your park's power system. So it's actually quite a unique and interesting mechanic. So this is probably the most interesting mechanic I've heard them adding to any of the Evolution games. And this is actually, and I didn't think I would ever say this about Evolution, a legitimate management mechanic in their management games. This is actually a legitimate one. Like, it's not just like a mobile game point and click ranger thing. This is actually something that requires the player to think before they build. It's genuine management in this management game. It has only taken us 10 years and 3 games and DLCs, but we finally have a genuine management mechanic in this game. Doesn't get any better than this. Sarcasm aside. sarcasm aside, I think this is a really interesting mechanic. I'm looking forward to seeing how this is implemented in the campaign. But I don't think this is going to be implemented in Sandbox. Or I wonder if it can be implemented in Sandbox. I wonder if they're going to provide us an option to implement something like this in Sandbox. Or if this is going to show up in the challenge mode maps. Because if not, it's going to be limited to just the campaign, and that will be a shame, because this is a mechanic, or this is an aspect that I think would be interesting to have in challenge mode and campaign. It would be nice if this was given to some of those campaign maps, so that we could get a little bit more use out of this mechanic. It's interesting, actually. Like, one of the videos I finished writing the script for over the weekend was a video about mechanic systems I would like to see in Evolution. And something I did actually talk about, or will be talking about in that video that will be coming out in a week or so, is new methods of power. So it's interesting that actually this DLC is coming out with a new method of power. I just hope that we get to use it elsewhere. But yeah, legitimately an interesting mechanic. So before we move on to variants and skins, which again I think is an area that people are very happy about, what do people think of the new mechanic options we have? I'm going to go back to the invisible aviary. Like, so overall, what do people make of the new mechanics this DLC is coming with? Remember, these mechanics are not being given for free. Like, these are ones we're having to pay for. Godmodra, I want to focus on the stream. I'll look it up afterwards, okay? Please don't keep repeating that. But yeah, what do folks make of the new mechanics that this DLC is coming with? The invisible aviary, the new genetic traits, and the power distribution system. New mechanics are all right. I do like the genetic modification so that we can make sauropods more tolerant of each other. Yeah, I mean, in challenge or campaign mode, those new that amicable one is going to be powerful, really powerful. But like I say, in Sandbox, those genetic traits probably aren't going to be worth having. Like, most of the genetic traits aren't worth having in Sandbox. So, generally good, says Chad. Luna also thinks good. I mean, I am glad that they are implementing new mechanics in a DLC, because I think something that was lacking about the Biosyn and the Dominion DLCs for Evolution 2 was they just didn't add anything new gameplay wise. I mean, I suppose you could say that the Biosyn viewing tower and hyperloops were new mechanics, but they were quite shallow mechanics, really. They weren't really implemented in a very interesting way. So I'm glad we're actually got some genuine new, quite well thought out mechanics coming in this DLC. The mechanics are more interesting than the species. I would certainly say I'm looking forward to the invisible aviaries more than any of the animals. The invisible aviary is better, in my opinion, than any of the animals we're getting in this. So take that as it goes. Right. Moving on. Variants and skins. Let us start with, obviously, going through these one by one. So, the Spinosaurus is confirmed as a variant. And I think all of us breathed a collective sigh of relief. We were all desperately hoping that the Spinosaurus was going to be a variant. So I'm glad that is what's happening. It's coming to the game with obviously Frontier skins and a movie skin. I hope that the Frontier skins, I hope the Frontier skins are good. Because the movie skins are kind of meh as far as I'm concerned, the black and orange. I really hope the Frontier patterns are really good on this. Because if they are, it might be the Spinosaurus I use from here on in. I'm not a massive fan of the JP3 Spino, if I'm honest. Now, Evo did state that it's a new animation rig. So it has new animations when compared to the existing Spino, which I think is interesting. Kind of curious to see what they are. But, and this is the bit that's going to kind of go on through these variants and skins thing, it's just one model. So there's no sexual dimorphism, and there's no juvenile model. So the juvenile of these guys is basically going to be the Jurassic Park 3 Spino. And these are quite different to the JP3 Spino, and I think that's disappointing. No sexual dimorphism and no juvenile? That's kind of meh as far as I'm concerned. I know that would essentially have resulted in them having to do the same amount of work as the new animals. But come on, guys. There is something coming up on this list of mine as we're going through, which is important for this DLC, and not having a juvenile for this thing, I think that's a tad cheeky. The juvenile is going to look so weird next to this, but it is what it is. I'm glad that it is a variant. Next up, another one I think most people are happy about, the Mosasaurus, is also a variant. So it's going to have Frontier patterns. I hope, unlike the Mosasaurus in Evolution 3 already, I hope that Frontier gives this thing nice patterns and nice colors, because that's really important. The existing Mosasaurus is terrible in terms of its colors and its patterns. I think this is a better Mosasaurus than Jurassic World's traditional one. I still don't like it. I still don't think it's a particularly great Mosasaurus. I think the tail fluke is especially over. You know, that tail fluke is excessively large, and I was not a particular fan in the movie that they gave it the whale-like throat stretching skin, because that's a significantly mammalian thing for a particular feeding style, which a mosasaur wouldn't have. So I didn't particularly like that bit. But it is a better mosasaur. Like if you were going to hold a gun to my head and say you have to have a mosasaur in your park, this is the one I would probably go with. However, again, no sexual dimorphism, no juvenile. And that's going to look really weird because, again, this Mosasaurus and the Jurassic World's Mosasaurus are radically different. So this thing is not going to have any resemblance to the juvenile whatsoever. So that's going to look really weird. The Mosasaurus also has another problem, and that is the lagoons are terrible. Evolution 3 badly needs a DLC or an update that makes the lagoons better. Until the lagoons are better, they can introduce as many lagoon animals as they like. No one will use them. The lagoons are mechanically lacking. They are lacking when it comes to how we can design them and how we can personalize them. They are lacking in the quality of the animation, the social animations, what they actually do. We've got to have a lagoon update. But, like I say, it is a better Mosasaurus out of the two that we have. Next. Now this one, I might upset people. I might upset people. The Rex is a variant. And I'm kind of surprised. This feels kind of pointless to me. It's just a slightly fatter, more obese T-Rex. Why is it a variant? That's a weird choice as far as I'm concerned. I imagined that it would just be a skin. That being said, if this Rex has better skins than the old Rex, maybe it's worth it. If it has better skins, because the current Rex skins are kind of meh. So if this has better Frontier skins, this is going to be potentially a better T-Rex. All I would say is the existing T-Rex run animation, where it is really badly posed and it's really front heavy and running basically at like a 45-degree angle, it's going to look even weirder with a fatter Rex. It's like here we've got an even fatter T-Rex running in a really top-heavy, lopsided way. It's going to look very, very peculiar. Yeah, and I suppose we could use the chunkier one as like a discount male for sexual dimorphism. But yeah, I'm just very surprised that that is a variant, not a skin. I don't, at this point in time, I'm not going to say it was a surprise but a welcome one, to use that meme. I'm just surprised. We'll have to see what it actually looks like in game. Compare the two, as it were. Moving on. I said moving on. Thank you. Now, the Quetz is also coming as a variant. Now, again, I might upset people here. I hate Rebirth's Quetz. It's not Quetz. The head is the wrong shape. that aside, Evo mentioned that they were it's going to have very colorful skins, which might save the animal slightly if it's very colorful. But again, it's also going to have no sexual dimorphism, and it's going to have no juvenile model. And again, it's going to look weird if you have these, but then you have the traditional Quetz juvenile, because they don't look a thing alike. They don't look anything like the same animal. The Mosasaurus and the Spinosaurus you could maybe get away with, but these don't look anything like the other Quetz. So, I don't know. Again, the lack of sexual dimorphism, the lack of a juvenile model, that's disappointing. Yeah, I don't say much positive about Dominion, Chad, but one thing I would say is at least their Quetzalcoatlus looked like the fossil evidence. This is not the fossil evidence for a Quetzalcoatlus head at all. Tis what it is. Maybe you could say it's not Quetzalcoatlus and say it's like Hapsicopteryx or something. Like invent a new species, but whatever. And then we are going to have 2 new skins. The Dilophosaurus is going to be a skin, which I think is the right way to do it, because basically it's got no real difference to... It's subtly different to the Dominion one in terms of the color of the frill, but it's basically pretty much the same. I think it's a bit superfluous, but again, it is what it is. And the other skin is going to be... This is the important one for me. The raptors are coming as skins. So we can finally do the raptors from this film justice and actually see them properly. Unlike the film, we can actually have these raptors and actually respect them, which is what the film doesn't do. I'm really looking forward to seeing these in game, because basically these are Jurassic Park 3 raptors with different colors. So we can actually have like a male and female raptor using the Jurassic Park 3 model, essentially. You know, you could have these and have them all as females, and then have all the male JP3 raptors, and then you've got, you know, better raptors. Rebirth made banger raptors and then treated them like trash. It really did, Wazubal. It's why I said the Mutodons were the worst thing about Rebirth. Just the way that they treated and disrespected the Velociraptors. But they're not... I say Velociraptors. I really feel like we should call them something separate, like Sauna Raptors or Nublar Raptors. Because they're not... They're just not Velociraptors, are they? But yeah, I'm really looking forward to having these in game. Like, it's probably one of the big things I'm looking forward to. We should call them Deinonychus. So, before we go on to the buildings and the sets, what do people think about the variants, what we're getting as variants, what we're getting as skins? I'll make it even easier for you guys. What is the, out of the variants, the 4 variants we are getting, which one are you most looking forward to? For me, I think the variant I'm most looking forward to is the Spino. But I'm curious what you guys think. I'm just going to have a slurp of tea. Spino is mid, Rex and Mosa is peak. Lactose says the Spino. By the way, folks, I'm also going to take this opportunity to please like the stream, subscribe if you're new to the channel. You know, all the usual YouTuber stuff. It just really, really helps, especially at the moment with all this DLC news coming out. Does help the channel grow. Helps me with the algorithm, you know. Do remember to like the stream, etc. The Quetzal is uninteresting. Chad, that's like an old person saying they're disappointed in you. It's just someone says, you are uninteresting. That is like a cutting criticism, Chad. The fan base and community is happy and glad Frontier didn't get lazy. I mean, I had a horrible thought that they might, oh, there's that beloved Shonosaurus. Come back, Shonosaurus, come back. Sorry. Yeah, I'm glad that Frontier didn't get lazy as well. I had a horrible feeling that they might make all of the Rebirth variants as skins. But I'm glad they're not. But I do think it is slightly lazy of them to not give them at least a juvenile model, because the existing juveniles look so different. Like, really, really, really different. I'm going to say I'm more excited for the Mosasaurus, so we can finally have a Mosa with better skins. Let's hope the skins are better. Like, the film skin is obviously nice, but let's hope the Frontier stuff is better. Because Frontier's patterns and, like, that's the big thing. Frontier's 12x7 choice of skin and pattern. If they're good, then these variants are going to be fantastic. But if Frontier do, like, really bad patterns and skin colors, that's going to make them... You know, at that point, they might as well just be skins. Like, if they're going to be variants, let's actually have some genuinely good Frontier colors and patterns for them as well. Right, moving on. And this one, I'm going to have to now change how we are doing this. So, I'm going to, just move you over there, Spino. Just a bit. There we go. And I'm going to have to change this to my internet. Hang on a minute. I thought I would do it this way, just because... oh, okay. I can't do it via that way. Bear with me one moment, folks. Do I have to do it via browser source then? Window capture. Why isn't it letting me capture my internet window? I do like it when OBS decides to randomly break. Does it have to be browsing? No, that is definitely not the Is it because I have it minimized? Is that the problem? Yes, that was the problem. It was because it was minimized. Right. Let me just make this look bigger. Screen. There we are. Delightful. So here we are on the website. So, I want to talk about the buildings, because the buildings are interesting. So we'll talk about the buildings and the modular building elements. So, the first thing to talk about is we're getting 35 blueprints. So we're going to get a series of Mayan temple structures, which I think is going to be really fantastic. These are going to be really great for decorating enclosures with. These are going to be really great. I love how all of these Mayan elements look, especially this archway. I think the arch looks wonderful. So I'm really looking forward to being able to sort of mess around with some of these. I can imagine people are going to make some amazing sort of temple complexes out of this sort of stuff. The actual building set for the other buildings, I think, is kind of bland. It's kind of boring. It's just brutalist slab-sided concrete, which is okay if you're going for a sort of industrial look, but it is kind of a bit meh. I'm especially gutted by, where is it? This. Open image in new tab. I was like, how have they done the glass over the lagoon? And it's just those horrible glass panels. It's just the same horrible glass panels. For the briefest of moments, I thought it was just clear glass, and it's not. It's the glass we already have in game. And I was like, oh, that's so disappointing. You've just used the bad glass. We don't have better glass. Yeah, that's a bit disappointing. But yeah, the building style is okay. I actually really like this structure here, the curved dome structure. I hope that's quite a big sort of curving element, because I could see where I might use that in my buildings. Overall, I'll tell you what this sort of building style makes me think of. This vet is actually interesting with these like protective fortifications around it. I think that's quite an interesting design. But I'll tell you what this building style reminds me of. Command and Conquer. It makes me think of Command and Conquer games. Or like RTS strategy games. Like with these sort of bunker style pillbox elements and these like protected walls and brutalist sort of slab-sided elements. I just get a massive Command and Conquer feel from it, especially something like this. Like this you could put in like Command and Conquer Tiberian Sun or some World War II based RTS game, and it would look fine. So yeah, I think it's a really funny building style. And then we have 387 items. Now I can't expand these. At least I don't think I... Oh no, I can make them slightly bigger. That's about as big as I'm going to be able to get them, folks. And what we have is a range of temple pieces, you know, carved temple walls. We're getting some new, like, ivy and moss decals by the looks of it. These are the Mayan temple wall pieces and columns. Mayan floors, stairs. These are all for building the temples. Some new archway pieces. These pieces, these angled sort of triangular ones, these are already in the concrete options. I'm assuming they're just going to be like Mayanized. I think there are non-gridded and gridded versions, or these might be. Oh no, these are just like stone, and I think these are the engraved ones. So we're going to get a lot of variation in the modular temple pieces. So again, I can see some amazing Mayan temples coming. These are interesting. Some new placeable grass. Some like scattered ferny sort of things, and some new sort of short grass and tall grass. That'll be all nice. And then we've got these, the actual building set of the DLC, which are these, again, very industrial, very brutalistic sort of pieces. Some of these I could see being quite useful for doing like these very long pieces, obviously for creating the sides of that the lagoon that we see in the first map. These I think are going to be quite good for creating like concrete walls to cover like slab sides of like enclosures to create like an artificial like concrete wall, concrete barriers, or even decorating the current lagoons. Like we could use those to decorate the current lagoons sections. We've got like I say, a bunch of new like random decals, a new type of some new fencing, and some new placeable grass cubes, and one that looks like a curved grass piece, which is actually quite interesting. We have some new gantries, which I quite like. I quite like these gantries, as well as a petrol pump. So I suppose if you're making a petrol station, you've got a placeable petrol pump now. These pieces again for keys, these like curved key pieces, new helipad, icebox, some new lampposts, phone posts, and some new piping as well. Lots of industrial sort of looking objects. We've got statues. Now, this is a big thing. 4 statues: Aqualops, D-Rex, Mutodon, and Titanosaur. I can imagine the Titanosaur statue is going to be the biggest one. But it's nice that we have statues of every creature. I wish that the Wetlands pack had come with statues of at least the Irritator. And then we have some like weird angled, looks like angled glass sort of pillbox pieces. The weird like sci-fi spaceship structure that the raft was in is in there as well as just one solid lump, or two pieces. But yeah, it's a very. I can see people getting the most use from the Mayan temple pieces. I think when it comes to like the brutalist pieces, I don't think people will use them as much because they're very industrial. I might end up using them for my DIN buildings. I can already see. I'm already getting some ideas for buildings in a DIN style using these modular building pieces, the brutalist sort of industrial ones. But I suppose if you like a more industrial look, they're going to be good to have. But I definitely think it is the Mayan modular building elements, and obviously the Mayan structures that are going to be used the most. I think they're the things that people are going to use the most from this. We now have a hybrid. We have 2 hybrid statues, which I find interesting. We don't have the Indominus Rex as a statue, do we? Which I think is interesting. But yeah, these Mayan templates are obviously going to be what people use the most. Again, if we want animals to interact with them, at least the pterosaurs to interact with them, we're going to have to put perch points on them. Obviously, nothing else, guests, etc., will not interact with this stuff. But that's a limitation of the game. That's a limitation of the game as it is. Right. So, I'm actually going to get rid of this now. This brings us to the bit... Actually, before I get into this, so what do you guys make of the modular building bits? The buildings and the modular building elements, what do you guys think before we move on? Definitely one of the things I'm most interested for in the DLC. I think it's better than the wetland stuff, honestly. We're just talking about the building set, Chad. The Mayan temple building set, and also the brutalist industrial building set. Overall, I think the building sets are good. I think the brutalist one, like I say, is not going to be used often by many people. I think the Mayan stuff is going to be used the most. Of course, while we are getting those updates to how the menu system works. So actually, the menu is getting a little less clunky, but that menu is still very clunky in the modular building system. It's cool that we get a temple scene in Rebirth, since we have the temple level in Jurassic Park Rampage. I mean, there were temples also in Trespasser. So, you know, it's nice that we can actually start having these bits in our parks. And, you know, temples are quite nice, I think. Background scenery for enclosures. Better than, say, random Louisiana swamplands building, like church. Don't know who thought that was a good idea. Now we move to the bit where I think we're going to have the most to talk about. Or at least people are going to be talking about, I think, this. Coming on June 16th, the price. 20 quid for us in the UK, 25 quid or $25 or 25 euros. 20 quid for us in the UK. That is a lot. In my opinion, for a DLC, that is a lot. And to put this into perspective, where is it? So here are some other figures. So the Jurassic World Evolution 2 Biosyn expansion was $15.99. Jurassic World Evolution 2's Dino Packs were $5.99. Rebirth expansion, 20 quid. The Wetland DLC was 8 quid. So there's a between £3 and £4 increase in terms of the DLC price. But there's another way to think about this. The Rebirth DLC is 1/3 the price of the base game, more or less. You're paying 1/3 of the value of the full base game just for the Rebirth expansion. And if you get both the Rebirth expansion and the Wetland expansion, you have just added 50%, more or less, onto the cost of the full game. 2 DLCs is half the cost of the full game. I think 20 quid for an expansion DLC is too high. It is too high. If you think about it, if you remove the modular building system, okay? So remove the 300 odd pieces. Keep the buildings, but remove the 400 odd pieces. And actually just look at what we're getting outside of that system. We're getting a new building set, 4 new animals, some skin variation, a couple of new mechanics, and a new campaign. It's basically the Dominion DLC. The second one. Not the Biosyn one. The second one. There we got new island, new maps, campaign that is integrated into those maps, the variants, the species, the new building set. It's the Malta DLC. But it's I would say significantly more expensive. As is the standard dinosaur packs are also more expensive. I just think it's a lot of money for an expansion. Especially an expansion that is... How can I put this? It's not Frontier's work, is it? Well, it is, but it's just the film content. It's just the Rebirth content. That's all it is. Yes, the modular building system bits are very unique and very good. But it's just Rebirth's animals. It's just Rebirth's stuff. And it's a terrible film. It's an awful film. Like, I love the fact that on Frontier's website, they say the blockbuster film. It's the worst. It made less money than all of the other films. Out of the Jurassic World films, it's the worst performing. And it's also the worst out of the 4 Jurassic World films. I wouldn't call it a blockbuster by any point. But yeah. I don't know. I just think 20 quid is too much. What do you guys think? Considering what we are getting, is 20 quid too much? Because if we are assuming that this game is going to have other expansions, at least another one, I think 20 quid is a high price tag. Especially if you're like me, where you don't care about Rebirth as a film. So, the location, who cares? 50% of the animals, who care? Well, actually, 75%, because the Aqualops is kind of meh as well. So, 75% of the animals for me, pointless. One of the new variants I don't care about because it's the Quets. The 2 skins I don't really care about. Well, maybe the Raptor one I do actually care about, but the Dino one I don't really care about. The Mayan building stuff I do care about. The actual building set of the base game is just concrete, brutalist concrete. So again, kind of meh, kind of boring. I'm just I'm just really don't think it's worth 20 quid. Maybe the invisible aviary is a big sell as well. it's funny, isn't it? Because you would traditionally say that for any DLC, the big selling point is the animals. But I don't think that's the case here. I think the big selling point for the Rebirth expansion is the aviary, the variants. They're the two big, and maybe the Mayan building set. They're the three big selling points, I think, for the DLC. I think for most people, they don't care about the hybrids. And honestly, I don't think most people are going to care about the campaign either. I bet you... Sorry, my throat has gone. I bet you that if you did a poll of the gameplay of the player base of Evolution 3, I bet you most people haven't even finished the campaign. No, Basti, there is a building set for the actual InGen buildings as well, but it's just basically brutalist concrete. It's not really... It's not doing anything amazing. There are some interesting designs, but it's basically Command & Conquer buildings. Yeah, people are going to go straight to Sandbox. So... the campaign, I don't think, is a huge selling point for most people. I don't know. The price is the thing. For me, I think the price is too high. I really do. I think if it was still $15.99, I think then yeah, this is an easy sell. If it was $15.99, again, I like the traditional expansions. I think $15.99, fair price, great price, easy sell. Even if you don't like the animals, get it for the aviary, get it for the Mayan modular building pieces, get it for the variants. You know, go right ahead with that. But for 20 quid, 20 quid is a lot of money. That's, well, okay, me and Dane brought a week's worth of food the other day for 35 quid. So, 20 quid is not that far off a week's worth of food for me and Dane. I'll only get it for the new Spinos. Yeah, hello. I think this is something I think the Rebirth expansion is going to have with a lot of people, is they're going to be spending 20 quid for like one or two things that they want from it, and a majority of the content is only going to appeal to certain people. Basically, the people that love Rebirth. Which, I still find people who think that's a good film weird. Just like in a writing perspective, the film is bad. Yeah, and this will probably be standard for expansions for Evolution 3 in pricing. Although this is an interesting point, Kairu. I really hope Frontier goes back to non-film-based expansions. Like, that was one of my biggest criticisms with Evolution 2, was that the expansions were just the movie content. I really want them to start moving beyond the films and do a unique expansion, like The Secret of Doctor Wu was unique, or Sanctuary was unique, or really the Return to Jurassic Park DLC for the first game was unique. I really hope we get a unique expansion after this. And I hope we actually do get more expansions. If this is the only expansion they do, I shall be very disappointed. We need an expansion every year. And I really hope we get something unique, frontier driven. Maybe something about the lagoons, frontier. There is one other thing I think is interesting about the DLC, and that is the animal that is missing. Has anyone noticed what is missing? Yeah, the frog bat. The Agnorognathus is not here. I find that very interesting. They wouldn't make another Rebirth DLC. The Agnorognathus is not in the game. But I don't think there's any other animals. I don't think there's anything else from Rebirth that's like obviously missing. I just find it interesting that the Ignorignathus isn't there. It means they probably aren't looking to implement the insect feeder again. Or at least not yet. Which again, I suppose scuppers the return of Yehalopterus as well. But I do wonder if the insect feeder is just never going to return. Because this would have been the place to do it, really. Especially with that the new invisible aviary. The only way I could see another Rebirth DLC is only if the amphibian and eel get named. Yeah, which I substantially doubt. But yeah, I mean, no, these are final thoughts now. Yeah, 4 species in a pack, 3 species in a dinosaur pack, I think is what's going to be standard from here on in. And obviously that new price tag, 20 quid, 25 euros, $25. Obviously I will be getting it just because content, you know. I don't have the option of getting it for free. So I have to pay 20 quid if I want to make content on the bloody thing. But would I tell people to buy this? It's hard to say before we actually see it. Before we actually get our hands on and see like what the variants look like in Frontier colors. I would say if you do a lot of modular building, the pack is probably worth it. And if you put a lot of pterosaurs in your parks, again, the invisible aviary, it's probably worth it. But I think if you don't... I think this is going to be quite a contentious DLC, just because of Rebirth's contentious... reputation. Obviously, on the 16th, when we get it, I'll be doing, what day is the 16th, actually? Let's have a look. Oh, the 16th is next Tuesday. So yeah, next Tuesday, I shall probably do a all-day stream going through the campaign. And also we can have a look at those, the variants, the skins, etc., etc. And I shall probably do a video Friday, Saturday to sort of go over the elements I think I'm most looking forward to, the elements I'm least looking forward to. Do I think the pack is worth it? I just want to sleep on it and think about it a little bit more. But yeah, overall, there's some interesting stuff in here. Some good stuff for sure. But it is very expensive. That price tag I still can't get over. Like, that is so expensive for an expansion. In fact, I think that might be the most expensive DLC for a game I've seen. Or at least a game I've played. I can't think of a game I've played that has a more expensive, like, as a singular piece of DLC. I don't think I've played a game which has a more expensive DLC than that. Let me go on my. I'm actually curious now. Let me go on my Steam. What might have had something as expensive? Planet Coaster and Planet Zoo, nowhere near that price tag. SnowRunner, actually. SnowRunner, maybe? Let's see. SnowRunner's season passes. No, SnowRunner's season passes aren't that expensive. How much are there? Season passes. So I'm just really curious about the pricing here. Season pass. Yes, SnowRunner season passes are cheaper than that. So yeah, that's not as expensive. Think any other games I have in this list that might have never. Maybe Total War Warhammer DLCs. Let's have a look. DLCs. $3.99, $7.49. DLC upgrade. $12.99, $9.99, $14.99. Like, yeah. I cannot find a game on my games list that has a more expensive singular piece of content. But shall we actually let's do a little bit of an experiment? Shall we see if we can actually find a game that has more expensive? Someone give me a game that they think might have a piece of DLC that is more expensive than 20 quid on its own. That's on Steam. I'm trying to rack my brain. See if we can find one. Maybe one of like the big Star Wars like Battlefront games. Actually, maybe something made by EA. It's got to be something made by EA. Yeah, no, they actually don't have any DLC for that on the store front page for Steam. Maybe like maybe one of like the Grand Theft Auto games. I mean, oh, Ark. Actually, let's have a look at Ark. I mean, they've got to have expensive. They've got to have expensive DLCs, right? 12.79. Okay, so maybe not. Sorry, that was the Ark page on Steam chat. Yeah, I can't find a single game that has a piece of DLC that's 20 quid on its own. Oh, look at Ark Survival Ascended. Does that have DLCs though? Early access game. Oh, there we go. Okay, we found one. We found one at last. Ark Survival Extended Bob's Tall Tales is £25. And Ark Lost Colony Expansion Pass is £30. Jesus Christ, for a DLC. Oh, okay. Dane has said the Monster Hunter DLCs might be as expensive. Let's go for the most. What's the most recent Monster Hunter game? Monster Hunter Rise. Okay, Monster Hunter Rise DLC. Holy shit, they have a lot of good. Most of it's cosmetic, and none of it's more than 20 quid. Sunbreak is... Oh, hang on, that's the sale price. £33 for a DLC! Holy moly! Holy shit! Okay, well, if it's an entire new game, that's a little fairer, but so yeah, Ark having £25 DLCs is probably the most similar to Rebirths that we can find. That is extraordinary, isn't it? Just from a gaming perspective. Like, that is so expensive compared to what it used to be. It also means that let's assume that we're going to have another... Maybe we might get another dinosaur pack in September time. Maybe. Or toward the end of the year. And let's assume it's also 8 quid. So that means the year 1 DLC cost comes to nearly 40 quid in total. Which is nearly the price of... I think it's over the price of Planet Zoo 2. How much is Planet Zoo 2? Planet Zoo 2 is, as standard, is £40. That's the base version. 55 for the deluxe. So, if we get another dinosaur pack this year, you would have spent the same amount of money on those 3 DLCs as Planet Zoo 2. And Planet Zoo 2 is probably... I'm not going to say the better game, but I'm going to say has less inbuilt limitations. That is... I mean, that's quite a toss-up, isn't it? Jurassic World Evolution 3 DLCs or Planet Zoo 2? What do you get? You get Planet Zoo 2 with those lovely looking aquariums, free-flying birds, guests that are actually guests, a modular building system that's actually implemented correctly, management mechanics that are implemented correctly, which is not held hostage by Universal? Or do you buy 3 DLCs for Jurassic World Evolution 3, which have all the inbuilt problems they have? Oh my lord. Okay. Just to keep you happy, God Modera, let me have a look at this thing that you keep talking about. I have asked you to stop keep mentioning it. I still don't know what this thing is. UGVR. Well, it's obviously a dinosaur thing, but I don't know what this is. I haven't even heard of it until now. So it's basically like oh bloody hell, what was that one you were playing? It's basically like Dino Valley, but VR? Is that right? I would actually say that their Flaptor looks better than the Mutadon. I mean, their Flaptor is actually legitimately just basically a pterosaur. It looks like a pterosaur. Like, there's not that much raptor in that at all. But compared to the Mutadon, looks way better. Yeah. Yeah. So it's basically like Dino Valley. Interesting. Anyway, like I was saying, this DLC I think is in an awkward place. I shall be buying it next week, and I shall be playing through it next week, and we'll see what I make of it at the end. Like, the campaign is the campaign going to be a selling point? Is it not? That's going to be important for me. And like I say, towards the end of the week, I shall probably try to do another video where I just go over what I'm most looking forward to, what I'm not looking forward to. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. Anyway, I'm going to leave it here, because we've been going now for nearly 2.5 hours, and my voice is gone. So I'm going to leave it here. thank you everyone for coming and talking along with me. I know obviously a video is probably better for views and whatever, but I prefer to talk to people. I like to converse. So thank you for coming along and chatting with me and conversing and giving me your thoughts. There is a video out tomorrow. I believe it is Fallout's next Yubo video, so please do give that a watch and a like at least, just to keep the algorithm working for us. Don't forget to like this stream if you haven't already. Again, helps the algorithm. And yeah, I shall speak to the rest of you tomorrow on stream with Fallout. So I will see you then. Until next time, folks, wherever you are, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday afternoons. Stay safe, and good night.